Hey guys, let's get more news, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. The Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers finally ended the NFL's longest-running soap opera this offseason when the two parties agreed to a one-year deal this week to make the four-time MVP the franchise's next quarterback. Rodgers signed for $13.65 million and has the potential to earn about $6 million more in incentives. But one interesting note came out after the deal was finalized as ESPN's Adam Schefter shared that Rodgers wasn't exactly the Steelers' first choice. Schefter shared recently that Rodgers was Pittsburgh's third option this offseason behind re-signing Justin Fields, or trading for Matthew Stafford. It makes sense that Stafford would be the top option, as he is likely better than Rodgers at this point in their respective careers, but it's surprising to hear that the Steelers wanted to keep Fields that badly. Fields signed a two-year deal with the New York Jets rather quickly after the free agency period started, while Rodgers hung around, floating the idea that he could retire. As teams around the league landed their quarterbacks and took themselves out of the running to sign Rodgers one by one, it became clear after the draft that Rodgers was either going to be a Steeler or he was going to have to wait until training camp for someone to get hurt to clear a path for him to start somewhere. This is probably Rodgers' last shot at a Super Bowl. If things crash and burn again like they did with the Jets last season, it could be for him in the NFL. Being a third option is never fun, but there's a roadmap where this grows into an extremely beneficial relationship for both parties. Aaron Rodgers spent the past two seasons with the New York Jets. In 2025, he will join the Pittsburgh Steelers. Longtime former NFL player Booger McFarland said on SportsCenter that the move from the Jets to the Steelers is a clear downgrade. Going from the Jets to the Steelers from an offensive line standpoint, I'm going to say that's a downgrade. I think when you look at the Jets, they got Olu Fashanu. They just drafted Armand Membu out of Missouri at right tackle. They got Elijah Vera Tucker on the inside. I love that offensive line. You could make an argument that the Jets have a top 5 offensive line in football, especially when they're healthy, McFarland said. I don't know if you can say the same in Pittsburgh. For a quarterback that is 41 years old, that's going to a worse offensive line. I got 2 words for Aaron Rodgers. Good luck, my friend. The one you left in New York, I think, was markedly better. We can debate what is or isn't an upgrade, but what we can't debate is that exit plan. By all accounts, Rodgers wanted to return to the Jets, but the feeling wasn't mutual. The Jets ripped the Band-Aid off when Rodgers flew to meet with the team's new brass. Head coach Aaron Glenn and general manager Darren Moogie let Rodgers know at that time they were going in a different direction. He was ultimately released into free agency, and the Jets eventually replaced him with Justin Fields. While going from the Jets to the Steelers may be a downgrade according to McFarland in the trenches and at the skills position, Rodgers didn't have a choice in his exit from New York. McFarland praises Jets and slams Steelers simultaneously. Wow, I know I'm going to seem like the Debbie Downer, but I'm going to say it's a downgrade also, going from the Jets to the Steelers' offensive weapons. This is nothing against DK Metcalf. I love him and Pat Freiermuth, but when you look at what they got with the Jets, Garrett Wilson, you talk about Allen Lazard, Breece Hall in the backfield. I think just looking at that nucleus right there, and I didn't even mention Mason Taylor, who was a tight end they drafted from LSU, who I think is going to be a stud. I think it's another downgrade for the Steelers, McFarland explained. There are better skill position guys in New York than he is going to get in Pittsburgh. I know he has already thrown with DK out there in Los Angeles. We saw that, I don't know if that was like 5 months ago. It has been so long since we've been talking about it with Aaron Rodgers. When you look at the rest of them, okay? George Pickens is now gone. Pickens is in Dallas. So, they're still going to try to find a number 2 WR. I'm going to say it's a downgrade going from the Jets to the Steelers from a skills position standpoint, McFarland added. The Jets will have a chance to prove these statements true in the season opener against the Steelers. It took 3 months, but the Pittsburgh Steelers made their biggest signing of the offseason. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers will play, presumably, his final season in Western Pennsylvania, hoping to find the Steelers their first playoff win since 2016. Rodgers makes the Steelers better, but he won't make up for all of their flaws, especially on the boundary. He's not creating big plays with his legs or making the throws that defined his prime. As such, he'll be relying on his supporting cast as much as they'll be leaning on him, and they'll be doing so with one above-average receiver. Stephen A. Watch more. After trading for Seattle Seahawks star receiver DK Metcalf and then dealing George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys, Pittsburgh is back to where it began the offseason on the perimeter. On Thursday, veteran receiver Gabe Davis visited the facility in hopes of finding a spot in the passing offense. He left without a deal. While that doesn't necessarily mean he is removed from the team's plans, Steelers insider Mark Cavalier set the expectation for a potential Gabe Davis signing. In short, he won't count on Davis being the late addition to the receiving corps. "I don't think it will be Gabe Davis," Cavalier said on Cavalier plus Mac. "I just got the feeling when I was there and people were talking the other day. He just came in for a visit. A complimentary visit like a mint on your pillow." Pittsburgh could still add a receiver. Veterans like Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen remained unsigned. Several depth targets are available, too. Davis's big playability could be enticing for an offense that lacks potency outside of Metcalf. Robert Woods, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skowronek are competing for boundary roles, and Davis, at his best, would add a downfield threat to that rotation. However, he was released just one season into a 3-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, tagged with a failed physical designation. His torn meniscus is complicating his free agency. "Maybe they were just trying to give him the once-over because of that knee," Cavalier said. "I don't know how aggressive they were in trying to sign him. I think they move on from Gabe Davis. I don't think we will hear from him again." Given the need at receiver, it's no surprise Pittsburgh gave Davis a look. But if he's not fully healthy, there's little reason for the Steelers to be interested, especially as Rodgers' preferences play into their late off-season strategy.